Hello and welcome to the Andy Warhol Diary and the old Razzle Dazzle. This is your pal Mubbo, and today we're going to be taking a look at Thursday, December 23rd, 1976 in the Andy Warhol Diaries. Now, before we get started, we just have some quick housekeeping to go over before we jump right into today's entry. So the first one is, this is a PFA, that is a plea for assistance regarding my uncle's murder, which occurred in 2011. His name was Charles Pancheri, and he lived in Elizabeth, New Jersey. Sometime during the night or early morning of October 4th, 2011, a person or persons broke into his home and killed him, leaving him dead on the floor from stab wounds. My uncle was in his 70s and kept to himself. He had no known enemies. To date, there are no leads, and this case has gone cold. So if you have any information, no matter how trivial, you might think it's unimportant, but you never know, that one tip could just lead to something else, and they would reopen the case and take another look at this. You can call Union County Crime Stoppers at 908-654-TIPS. That's 908-654-TIPS. Or go to their website at www.uctip.org. www.uctip, so that's unioncountytip.org. And I thank you for your cooperation and any assistance. Now, as we start off in the diary, Maxime, we have one more thing to go. If you would like to look at a virtual version of the diary, you can go to this website, the archive, just type in Andy Warhol 1987. Sometimes this website doesn't work, so if you just type into the Google Andy Warhol virtual diary, then you want to go to this link right here for full text, and we're going to be looking at Thursday, December 23rd, 1976, if you want to follow along at home. Now, on this day, Maxime de la Falaise arrived late to the office Christmas party. Now, we've talked about Maxime a couple of times. She was a model, actress, and author, and worked as a minor codebreaker during World War II, but she was let go after developing kleptomania. Maxime was picking up a Mao painting. Now, these paintings were done around 1972 and 73, and they featured bold, contrasting colors, and they also appealed to Andy's preference of repetition and media saturation. And you can learn a little bit about right here. So it would depend on what version of the Mao. I'm figuring if she's picking up a painting, she's got a really good one. So it's probably in the $75,000 range to a $90,000 range. And this is just an example of what the Mao paintings might look like. The building super came to the party. Now, this was held at Andy's office at 860 Broadway. At the Christmas party, the building superintendent came to the party with his wife and son, but Andy thought it might be his stepson. And by the way, I don't know if we ever saw Andy's building at 860 Broadway. Andy had the entire third floor, which would be where this arrow is. And that would be a third floor if you're in the USA. I know that different countries might consider that the fourth floor, but it's the third in America. The floor that's even with the ground is the ground floor. So you can see on this these elevator buttons that we have here. So the ground would be the floor that you walk in. So that would be like right here. And then you would take the elevator up to the first floor, which is this. And this is what the space looked like. This was after Andy moved out. And this was just a snapshot from a Facebook group. If you want to join this group, they have a lot of Andy Warhol posts and memorabilia and people that were in Andy's circle hanging around on that group. So you can meet some interesting people. John Powers, who is right here, who is an American writer, columnist for LA Weekly and Vogue, film critic, and as of 2005, he was the pop culture critic at NPR. He dropped by the Christmas party with 2 flower posters that he had, but they were determined not to be authentic. Andy was going to sign them anyway, but keen businessman and always best dressed, Fred Hughes, who's right here, would not let Andy sign the pictures. Fred was Andy's assistant and business manager, and he was the publisher of Interview, and he helped to launch Andy's lucrative commission portrait market. And one of Andy's things is Andy would bring along his assistants, and their job was to approach celebrities and chat them up and ultimately get them to agree to have their portrait painted by Andy, or one of his silkscreens. And as people started getting older, it turns out that they don't like being reminded of what they used to look like when they were younger. One of these is the infamous Liz Taylor. She had a portrait done by Andy. And as she started to get older, and you know how she famously put on weight and she didn't really look like the old Liz Taylor anymore, Andy kept wanting to do another portrait of her, and she just flat out refused. She didn't want to be reminded of the way she looked then versus the way that she looks now. So Andy called that popping the question to the celebrities. Andy gave John Powers 2 flowered portraits that he had lying around in the back, and he signed them for John Powers. Also at the party were Ronnie and Gigi Cutrone. Ronnie was Andy Warhol's studio assistant at the time, and Gigi was an Academy Award-winning makeup artist. And she won for Best Makeup and Hairstyling for a film called Mank, which stars Gary Oldman, which I didn't know, and now I have to see it. Mank was a film released in 2020, and it's no wonder I didn't hear about it because the world was a little busy with other things around that time. It's an autobiographical drama film about screenwriter Herman J. Mankiewicz and the development for the screenplay Citizen Kane, which starred Orson Welles. And if you were interested in buying this print of Ronnie and Gigi, you could forget about it because it's out of stock. I was going to pick it up, but it's they don't have any more at this time. Andy did remark that everybody was diving into the champagne and caviar, and Andy knows his good caviar from his not so good. The art director for Interview Magazine's Mark Belay was at the party, and Mark went on to found his own advertising agency, which includes clients like Anne Klein, Barney's, and Armani. Fran Lebowitz, the author, public speaker, and cultural critic and actor, was also at the party. Fran wrote for Interview Magazine in the 1970s, and there's a very interesting interview with Fran and a little about what working with Andy is like. You can go right here to brooklynrail.org. Also on this day, Andy received a call from Andrea Portago asking if Andy could get her a ticket to the premiere of a movie, A Star is Born. And she offered to pay for the limo in exchange for a ticket to the event. Now, when I saw this picture, I had to do a double take because this chick looks like the way that I used to look when I was in my 20s. She's got, her eyes are very similar, and she's got that giant, goofy ass, I'm showing too much teeth smile. But, yeah, and this is the only photo that I saw where she kind of looks like me. The rest of them she doesn't, but I had to do a double take on this picture. Andrea Portago was the daughter of Alfonso de Portago, a Spanish aristocrat, racing and bobsled driver. He was also a jockey and a pilot. Alfonso and his co-driver, Edmund Nelson, were killed in Italy during a race. The wreck also claimed the lives of 11 spectators, 5 of which were children. Alfonso was apprehensive about this race and considered the track to be very dangerous because of the complete impossibility of knowing every corner, even with a co-driver. So they weren't driving on a track, they were driving through like a neighborhood. So even if you were kind of familiar with the neighborhood, you're going at a high rate of speed. And you can actually go to this link right here, which is an investigative research paper about what actually happens. It was thought that an exploded tire may have played part in the accident, and you can actually see the trajectory of the car. So it's coming this way. The tire may have exploded around here, caused the car to jump the rail or jump the track, and then they overcorrected and then ended up over here. And this is the car. So this is an interesting article, not just gawking at a car accident. This is a very informative report that actually talks about the physics and the science as to what might have happened during the crash. Back in the diary, Andy couldn't figure out why Andrea wanted a ticket to the movie so badly until Andrea rushed up to Kristofferson and was saying things like, "Oh, darling, it's so good to see you again." Kristofferson was an American musician, songwriter, and actor known for popularizing the outlaw popularizing the outlaw country movement in the 1970s. He also wrote songs for other people that went on to be huge hits. One of the most famous is Me and Bobby McGee, that was recorded by Janis Joplin, whom he also had a brief dating relationship with. Of course, there's also the funny story told by Leonard Cohen being in the Chelsea Hotel, and Janis came up to him wanting to meet Kris for the first time, and Leonard told her that he was actually Kris Kristofferson. This first time meeting between Leonard and Janis may or may not have been the inspiration for Leonard's song Chelsea Hotel 2. It's well known that this song is about Janis, but I don't know if this is the only time that they got together, was this first time she came to the hotel. Back in the diary, as far as a relationship between Kris and Andrea, I was only able to find that they were linked during a very short time in the 1970s, during the height of Kristofferson's fame. But the website Who's Dated Who shows they dated sometime in the 1980s. So they were probably introduced in 76 and kept in touch, and then ultimately ended up dating sometime in 1980. Andy pointed out that the theater for the film wasn't very crowded, even though Sue Mengers tried to pack the place. Now, we've mentioned Sue Mengers, or Mengers, before in another video. She was a Hollywood agent, and after her retirement, she became known for holding private salons that are small gatherings for actors and entertainers. This way she kept in touch with all the latest gossip, and she kept her name out there. One of her best friends was Bodie Boatwright. Remember her? She was a casting agent. She was born as Alice Lee Boatwright, and her nickname was Bodie. And there she is with Mr. Let's Give It All Away, Paul Newman. And I'm pretty sure that I made that same reference the last time that Bodie was brought up, as well as the Bodie McBoatface ship. I probably used this exact slide. Sue Mengers gave people the impression the theater was going to be very crowded and it was going to be hard to get in, but Andy couldn't help notice all the empty seats. Sue made sure to tell everyone that they should tell Barbra Streisand that they love the movie so that Barbra wouldn't get upset. Andy, however, didn't like the movie. He preferred the original one with Judy Garland and how it gave him goosebumps. And this one just seemed like a nothing rock and roll story. However, his partner Jed liked it. I wonder what Andy would have thought of the Lady Gaga version. And fun fact about me, I haven't seen a single one of these movies. After the movie, they went over to the famous Tavern on the Green. Now, the Tavern is a restaurant located in Central Park, not too far from Andy's offices. This building was originally used for the sheep that would graze in Central Park's meadows, but in 1934, it was turned into a restaurant. And I snipped one of the menus here, and the only thing that sounds good to me is this lemon chicken under a brick, and that only means that they press the chicken flat so that all parts of the chicken would make contact with the pan, and the brick or any heavy object would sit on top of the chicken so that it was thoroughly cooked. But it's served up like this in a whole piece. You don't get to keep the brick, unfortunately. For me, Tavern will always be a movie icon location, and you can see the outside of the building here. And here's a shot of the inside, and it's just a restaurant. I mean, it's just one of those touristy things that you go to New York to do. And so for me, I know it from the movie Ghostbusters. So it's the part of the movie where Rick Moranis' character runs to the Tavern on the Green for help, and he's knocking on the window because that demon statue dog thing was chasing after him, and all the diners just they looked at him and then they just went back to eating because that's what you do in New York. And right here you can see all of the movies that Tavern on the Green was featured in. At the after party at the Tavern on the Green, Babs was wearing a black tuxedo, and Elsa Peretti was talking about how good it feels to not be on anything, and she didn't take anything anymore. Now, Elsa, if you watched another one of my videos, was a Tiffany designer. We've mentioned her before, and she was best known for designing the bone cuff bracelet, which is right here. And she also brought silver into her Tiffany creations, which brought her jewelry line to a wider audience, as silver was a bit more friendly on the wallet than gold, and that meant ordinary schlubs like you and me might actually be able to afford a Tiffany piece. As Andy and Elsa were talking, Andy admired a light bulb that Elsa had in her purse, as you do. It was a light bulb that lit up when you put a penny next to it, and Elsa gave it to Andy. Of course, Andy had to show it off. But before we get to that, I actually found one of these on a website. It is out of stock, but back in the 1970s, it must have been, some new thing. But you can actually find a YouTube video right here, and it'll show you how it works. You can use a coin or your finger will apparently make the light bulb work. So Andy, of course, had to show off this new toy that he got, and the human barnacle and assistant to Halston, Victor Hugo, admired it, so Andy gave it to him. And when Elsa saw that Andy gave it to Victor, she took it back and wagged her finger at Andy and put the bulb back in her purse. It goes to show you how even the super rich are easily entertained by stupid novelty items. Meanwhile, poor Andrea Portago is sitting there waiting for Kristofferson to notice her, but he was too busy. I feel that, girl. And that's it for this diary entry. So we're going to go on to this day in history. Today, Thursday, December 23rd, 1976. An important victory was won by the auto workers. An important victory was won by the United Auto Workers, since General Motors agreed to take a neutral stance in union organizing in the South. After their colleagues rejected unionization at 3 other GM plants, the workers at a plant in Monroe, Louisiana, voted 323 to 280 in favor of unionization. This particular plant was shut down completely in 2007. And that's going to do it for this entry of the Andy Warhol diary. We're going to be heading into Friday, December 24th, and we'll see what Andy's doing for Christmas. And of course, like every good PowerPoint presentation, unless I could think of something better to do, we end on the question screen. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. MUBBO.